I have 6 super safe fantasy football picks for you before your draft. Let's get into it. Now, first things first, and I just want to be straight up with you, I would not draft any of these 6 players. Now, if they fall in your draft, if none of your league mates want them and they fall well past their ADP, sure. But where they're currently being drafted at, I would not take these guys. I take home run swings. Go check out the video I've already posted on this. I like to win leagues. I don't like to slip into the playoffs. I don't like to finish average in the middle of the pack in terms of points. I like to win leagues. So you take home runs. You don't take safe players. Now, with that being said, in the first round, there are a few options here, but I'm going to go with Amon-Ra St. Brown as the safest player. And what I mean by that is there aren't really any question marks surrounding him. He will be a top 8 fantasy receiver. Will he be number 1? No. If he somehow is number 1, is it going to be by a large margin to where it's dominant? No. Amon-Ra St. Brown feels like a wide receiver 6 to me, and that's where he's being drafted at. So it's a fine value. He's been pretty healthy. The offense is going to feature him and Laporta, but the upside is capped. They're a run-first offense, and there's other receivers competing with him in the pass game, so they will score a lot of points. He'll be okay. I don't love it, though. In the second round, so I'm going round by round, I've got Bucky Irving. Look, Bucky Irving's a phenomenal talent, had a great rookie season, kind of went under the radar a little bit because of how prolific that Bucs passing offense was, but they added Emeka Egbuka in the first round, and Bucky Irving is a slight, slender guy. He is not a 225-pound bruising running back. He is a smaller guy that needs to be efficient and needs to get a lot of targets in the receiving game. And with Emeka Egbuka coming to that team, it's like, okay, Bucky Irving's now the 4th option, potentially, maybe the 5th option. And yeah, he will get the bulk of the carries in the run game, but there's not going to be that many rushing attempts when you have a top 10 quarterback and when you have 3 elite wide receivers. I think Bucky Irving's ceiling is capped. Now, due to him being a good receiving back, due to him being relatively efficient, I do believe he will have a good season. He probably will be a top 12, top 14 running back in fantasy, but he doesn't have the frame, he doesn't have the situation, he's not on the right team to be an RB1. Now in round 3, and this is probably my least favorite safe pick, and what I mean by that is I don't mean he's the least safe, I mean he's the most safe, and that's Ladd McConkey in the 3rd round. Look, he is almost a 2nd round pick. He's going pick 25, so just the first pick in the 3rd round currently in fantasy football leagues. So by the time you're drafting, he very well could beat the back half of the 2nd. And I don't like the value. Look, this is a run-first team. They paid Najee Harris a lot of money. They drafted Mary Hampton in the 1st round. They have Jim Harbaugh. And Justin Herbert might steal some touches in terms of rushing the football. So the offense is going to be a 50-50 split, run the pass. And at the end of the day, I don't think Ladd McConkey, although he is in a good situation, he's really the only proven receiver in that offense. I think in all likelihood there's going to be a random wide receiver who is more of a X frame. I mean that figuratively and literally. More of that, go-to number 1 type receiver. And I guess he would literally be shaped like an X as well. But that is going to be the guy that gets to 1,200, 1,300, 1,400 yards. Ladd McConkey is going to be a good receiver. Is he going to be a top 5 receiver? I'm taking him at the back half of the 2nd, the early 3rd. I think Ladd McConkey will be right around his ADP. I don't think he has the frame, the situation. I just can't see a world where Ladd McConkey ends up being wide receiver number 2 in fantasy. I just don't see it. And we're returning back to Tampa Bay. Mike Evans in the 4th round. Now, I don't hate this pick. Look, Mike Evans is super consistent, which fits the narrative of the safe pick video. My issue with Mike Evans is 1,000 yards every season. Barely 1,000 yards last season. They kind of cheated to get there with that play where they've already sealed it. But nonetheless, Mike Evans will be a flex play, a low-end wide receiver 2, depending on the league format. We have seen the prime of Mike Evans. We have seen the best situations for Mike Evans. And he is number 1 in a very crowded offense, which should be a good offense. A lot of touchdowns to go around. But you've got 4 guys who are legit dangerous players. And I just don't see any of these guys being a top 5 at their position. It's just not possible. You can't have Bucky Irving break out, Mike Evans break out, Chris Godwin break out, Emeka Egbuka break out. Is this offense going to be the greatest of all time? In that case, then maybe there's upside. But even if it is the greatest of all time, you're still sharing all those targets, all those points and touchdowns. So I think Mike Evans will be good once again. I think his ceiling is capped due to his age and due to his situation. Now, in the 5th round, I've got David Montgomery. Look, he is kind of that sleeper player that we have expected Jahmyr Gibbs to break out, and a lot of people were like, whoa, let's pump the brakes. I think David Montgomery's still going to get half the fantasy points. And over the last 3 or 4 seasons, well, last 3 seasons, David Montgomery has been a starting caliber player. He's getting older, more carries, and Jahmyr Gibbs is really coming to his own. And they also have all those passing options, so they might be less reliant on the run game to a degree. And the issue for me is we have seen the perfect situation for David Montgomery where they are giving him half the carries, sometimes even more than half the carries, all the goal line carries. More of those touches are going to be going to Laporta, to Jahmyr Gibbs, to St. Brown, to J-Mo. And even if Jahmyr Gibbs were to get injured, I think the offense just changes as a whole. I don't think that he just takes the majority of Jahmyr Gibbs' workload. I think the offense changes from a run-first-ish. It's becoming more pass-centric, but I think it will go from a run-first offense where David Montgomery gets, in terms of running the football, probably the better carries because they're closer to the goal line, to more of a pass-happy attack. And I just don't like that situation for David Montgomery. I think he's the only running back. I think he's one of these guys where we're like, yeah, we kind of expected Jahmyr Gibbs to fully take over that backfield. In the 6th round, Aaron Jones, another older running back. Look, older running backs, they usually don't break out. You could maybe argue a Saquon Barkley of last season broke out, but when I say break out, I'm kind of using that term loosely because we know Saquon was great. But the thing is, if you haven't proven by age 24, 25, 26 at the latest that you're an elite running back, it usually doesn't happen later in your career, especially for smaller running backs. Especially for smaller running backs, the hits really add up. I think Aaron Jones will be a safe play. I don't see a world where he ends up being a top 10 running back. And look, you might say, look, it's a 6th round pick. We don't expect him to be. That is my drafting strategy. I am always drafting for upside. And the thing is, what people don't understand when it comes to drafting for upside is, let's say I take a player and there's only a 25% chance that he is a big hit. And that depends on what round he's in. If it's a 1st round, I need him to be the best at his position. If it's a 2nd round, I need him to be top 3. If it's the 3rd round, I need him to be top 5, etc., etc. But the scale for what a hit is kind of changes a little bit. But if I have 3 or 4 hits and the rest bust, which is totally plausible, you get 12, 13 positional players, and the majority of them will bust. The replacement level for those guys isn't a big deal in terms of the waiver wire, in terms of potential trades off of other teams to acquire bench players. If I have the quarterback 2, if I have the running back 1, if I have the wide receiver 3 and the wide receiver 6, that is a league winner. It doesn't matter if the rest of your players bust out. You can get waiver, even if those guys are injured, if they suck, if they get suspended. If I have elite options, 3 or 4 elite guys, all I need to do is pick up some waiver wire guys, and they're formidable enough. If you go with all safe picks, sure, your team won't be last. In the rare occasion where all of your risky plays bust, okay, cool, your team won't be last. You'll be middle of the pack. You might slip into the playoffs, but you don't have the upside to win the championship. What's the point in playing fantasy football if you don't have a chance to win the championship? I would rather have a coin flip 50-50 first place or last place than have a 98% chance I finish 7th. I mean, that's cool, I guess. If that's your goal, is to show people how good you are at taking the highest ADP player in the drafts, then you just hit auto best lineup and you don't even do anything. You're just like, I'm just going to take the best player. I'm going to check out the waiver wire, and I'm also going to take the best player. It's like, I mean, you're not even really playing. You're just essentially letting AI and others dictate your team. You have to take risks to win. I mean, that's the situation. This isn't like an actual NFL game to where I wouldn't say that you should be bringing an all-out blitz on every play, because strategically it doesn't make sense. There isn't a boom or bust on every play that is necessary. In fantasy football, there is. There are only going to be 3 top 3 running backs. And we know there are quite a few guys who, although they're going to be good running backs, do not have that potential. I'm looking for guys that have that potential to do it. Will they do it? I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. But I need to draft guys that can do it. If everything breaks right, if the situation goes right for them, they can do it.